All right, I am excited to have my buddy Mark Martin with us. Mark is in Austin, Texas, but he is also nationwide. Let's just go ahead and call it worldwide. I'm sure it won't be long. But Mark runs an incredible team in Austin, Texas, and he's also got a referral network all across the country and has really kind of carved out a niche for himself in the industry as somebody that just gets stuff done and has really mastered the major platforms, certainly Zillow and Trulia, as well as Realtor.com and some of the other big boys as well. Mark and I have known each other for a while. We do a lot of similar things and some very different things. We use a lot of the same technology and have some of the same core philosophies, but we'll get into some of that now. So welcome, Mark. We'll get into some questions here.
Thanks, Todd. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing well, and I'm always excited to hear your success and your race car adventures and your ranches and your
Right.
pilot's licenses and all the excitement that you
Yeah,
bring.
it's you got to finish some of the stuff. So I just try to throw it up against the wall and try to make some stuff stick.
Yeah, man, if you start enough things, you'll finish enough things, I guess, is a good thing.
Back in June, I threw myself against a wall at about 100 miles an hour, and I didn't stick. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I saw that. You had to sit on one of those cushy donuts for a while, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
my friends customized a cushy donut for me with my racing number and all that stuff. It's pretty funny.
Awesome.
So congrats on the book, brother. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's good to see you back in action too. So yeah, so that's the deal. I'm excited to have a bunch of friends in the business that are contributors to the book. The book is 5 Lies That Will Ruin Your Real Estate Career and the Truth That Can Make You Wealthy. Obviously, you've gotten a sneak peek at it and given us a comment or two. And what I'm excited about bringing you into the process and letting people just kind of know some of what you know. A lot of your comments about the book itself were kind of shared philosophies that we both have. That look, so many agents that get into this business are told one thing, and then the reality is something so very different. And I've seen you on stage. We've been in masterminds. We've talked over the phone. We've met for meals. And I know that we share a lot of those thoughts. So it would be awesome. Just kind of this first question is, what are your general thoughts on what is true and what's not true? And you can take 30 seconds or a couple of minutes, whatever you want, but just about what agents are told versus what's real when it comes to being successful in residential real estate right now.
Yeah. And and this comes up in our coaching that we do, and I know you coach a group of great agents as well. And I think the thing that just keeps coming back is contacts. And it's so freaking simple, and yet everybody wants to look. If you look at all the products out there, all the systems, all the texting services, and all these things, it's ways that entrepreneurs have come up with ideas to separate the realtor's money from their pocketbook and figure out a way for them to not have to contact other humans about real estate.
Yep.
How can we avoid that conversation that talks about buying or selling real estate, developing a relationship first and foremost, developing trust, creating respect and integrity, and then, hey, by the way, I'm in the real estate business. I'd love to help you. I'd love to help you with investments. I'd love to help you sell your home and buy the next one, whatever that looks like. But we've come up with a million different ways to avoid that. And, it's Dirk Zeller, my business partner in the coaching company, Real Estate Champions. He calls it the telephone avoidance strategy. And, unfortunately, this is still a contact sport. We have to make contacts on a daily basis. I don't care who you are or what level you're at. If you want to recruit, if you want to sell real estate, if you want to get a loan, you still have to talk to a human. And, we've got Rocket Mortgage, but at the end of the day, you still got to talk to an underwriter. You still have to talk to a loan officer. And, we're not going to be able to avoid that. And I'm amazed as I have conversations with agents and team leaders across the country about I'm getting all these leads. Well, what's a lead, right? Well, I mean, somebody filled out a form so they can look at your website, or they auto-populated something, and so that's a lead. I don't know. But we have to talk to humans. And I think that for us and for myself and my teams across the country and my team here in Austin, we talk about it every day. And I'm sure you do as well with your team. We have to talk to people. Yeah. There is no avoidance of that. And, we can have the best systems and strategies and processes and widgets available, but there's no substitute for that face-to-face, belly-to-belly, creating a relationship, continuing a relationship. We adopted your raving fan club concept years ago, probably 5-6 years ago. We don't execute on it as well as you do, but we have that same philosophy that when we're done with this transaction, you're not just a number. We want you to be a raving fan. We want you screaming our names from the rooftops of what a great job we did. And if we fail at that at any point during the process, I need to know about it so that I can make it right for you. And it's basics and getting back to basics, and basics aren't sexy.
Yeah. So, and what I hear you saying really right now, but also I know that's kind of your stump speech, that's the soapbox that you can get on really quickly, is like, you got to put in the work.
Right.
Quit trying to make this and this not work, right? Like it's a rewarding work. Financially, it can be tremendously rewarding. It can be, to your raving fan club point, it can be relationally rewarding. It's just more fun to work with people that like you and are working with you for the 5th time than chasing strangers at a full sprint, hanging out of a car, trying to tackle something. That's what, I do think the reason you and I are both annoyed by people, and it's not just new agents that are saying, I want someone to convert the lead, I want someone to call the lead, I want someone to show it, then I want someone to transact it, I want someone to process it. Well, what are you going to do? Are you just the man behind the curtain? Well, the man behind the curtain is a fraud. That's not how nothing works that way. It doesn't work well, and it certainly doesn't work for long. So we share that. So if I were to summarize kind of that first jab you're throwing, it's like, shut up and work. Do the work, right? Now, there's some nuance and creativity and skill to this. So I get the next thing I would add is, or ask from you, is if you were a new agent right now, or a rebuilding agent, let's just say an agent who has done the smart thing of stopping and stepping back and saying, okay, maybe it's an agent saying, what's my plan for next year? I'm doing some annual planning, some quarterly planning. What are some of the things that agents should be doing right now? And then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question to specify some goals. But right now, just generally speaking, to be successful, to build a business right now, what should people be taking advantage of? What should they be doing? What kind of work should they do?
Right. And I'm seeing this, everything we do in this business is cyclical, and I'm seeing it occur again. And, I go back to 7 years ago, I lost everything. I had nothing. I had to borrow money from my mom and get my real estate license reactivated. I got top producer. I got Red X to get my expired and FSBO phone numbers, and I got a cell phone, and I started dialing. So for under basically $150 a month, I was in business. And then I had to figure out, okay, once I get a listing, I got to go buy the sign and I got to buy the lockbox and all that. But first and foremost, I need a listing. So I started prospecting, and I'm right back there today with as much as we do on Zillow and all the inbound stuff. That's all great. But I look at our numbers, and I'll just be transparent with our team. I'm down in the number of listings that we've sold this year. And I look at it and I'm like, well, why is that? I've got a great listing specialist. I've got great systems. And then I realized, oh, well, I haven't been calling. Okay. I haven't been prospecting, or I haven't been dropping the voicemails that I was last year. If I'm not going after the listings, or if she's not going after the listings using the basics of picking up the phone and calling, And so, you know, I don't care how broke you are or how successful you are, you can watch this business. And if you watch it long enough, you realize that it's the listings that provide the net income, the cash flow, the immediate, you know, 30, 60-day business that can make it happen. And so, you know, what would I do right now as a new agent or somebody that's reinventing myself? I'm going to be doing it again. I mean, I'm going to go after the listings, and I'm watching the trends, and I'm watching the expireds are coming back up, the withdrawals are coming back up, and, you know, FSBOs are not as successful as they once were. So there's opportunity there to go out and grab listings with 30 minutes to an hour of work on my part a day, make some contacts, reach out, touch some sellers, and start bringing people back into the corral, because I left the barn door open, and you know, we're doing great on the buyer side, but that comes with a 50% cost of goods sold attached to it, right? So if I go take listings, either myself or my listing specialist at a lower split, I'm going to be able to make more money and create that income.
Yeah.
So for me, it's listings.
You bring up a couple of good points, and you just perfectly transitioned me for my kind of my big question here. But the point I want to touch on is, you know, we started this conversation about how so many agents don't want to work, right? I want to automate. I want to delegate this. I want to have a VA for that. I want to have an ISA for that. I want to have client care, transact, you know, all this stuff. And I just want to kind of sit back as the little mastermind and pet my evil cat and just be a weirdo. You know, it's a relational business. So we talked about that. You've got to put in the work. And now what you're talking about is the other mistake that even super successful team leaders, brokers, owners, whatever, people like you, people like me, people in all different levels of this thing. Of course, brand new agents make these mistakes, but we're also seeing successful proven agents make these mistakes. And it's, you forget what got you there, right?
Right.
Now, there's definitely a model and an environment where you don't have to be the best prospector on your team. Now, I've heard you say, and I know that one of your core beliefs is that no one's going to do it as well as you, right? But there is a point where we all dream of a mature business where there's a lot of people doing a lot of things better than us. If I'm the best person at every single thing my company does, it's a very thin business. You know, that business is shaky. It's on shaky ground, right? Now, you're going to be the person that cares the most about most things probably forever, but that can also change over time. So anyway, just I kind of wanted to, we talked about put in the work, and now there's a great reminder there that I don't care if you're the team leader or the newest member or you're the janitor or the CEO, you know, you've still got to show up and work. And so as the team leader,
absolutely. And I think too that I've built multiple teams of income. I have coaching, I have the referral network, I have a team in California, I have a team here in Austin. I'm now what you talk about of not working. I don't do it. I don't go on listing appointments myself. I don't go meet with buyers. I don't close the transaction. I don't handle the paperwork. I'm just the guy with the evil cat. But at the same time, I've got to constantly watch the numbers and make sure that my net profit is where it needs to be to fund everything, to keep those teams going, but also to provide for myself and my family the lifestyle and the retirement and the investment properties and the things that we want to do. That's a very fine line. And so I know that there's going to come a time that I've got to jump back in and do some more myself, because I own it. And it always comes back to, I don't care how big the company is, it's always the leadership at the top that has to do some work in order to lead the people, but also motivate the people. And you're a great example of that. I mean, you're right there in the trenches every day with your team. And it's my teams are virtual, but they know that I've got my finger on the pulse, and we've got to be able to jump back in at any point and do it.
Yeah, and I think the other point you're bringing up, and then I'll actually ask the question, is like you're always growing, right? So what you're saying, you're not doing the work, which is not true. You're being somewhat modest, but you're just doing a totally different kind of work. You're no longer on the front lines doing a lot of technical work. You're doing some leveraged leadership growth work, right? But if you don't keep growing and your people start to see they've hit the ceiling, there's nowhere else to grow here, then they grow out, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're constantly stuck at a certain level of business because people grow to that point and then they bail. But as you grow and create a bigger world for people to exist in, you're still working, but you may not be at someone's kitchen table. You may not be hammering out an amendment on DocuSign at a 11:59 deadline anymore. But the work you're doing impacts more people. But I think still a really great label so far for this discussion is like, you're still working. You got to put in the work. Now, hopefully everyone's working in an area where even the grinded out work is exciting and it's fun because you're in the right role for you. That's probably a whole nother discussion, a whole nother book about putting people in roles that they're gifted in. But I want to ask you this question because you set it up great. If you were building right now, which you are, you'd focus on listings. Okay, great. So I have this belief that leads are not the problem for most of us in real estate anymore. So I believe that people truly are capable of taking a listing a week. You could take more if you want to put the pedal down harder. You can take less if you don't need to based on price point or time or what you need to provide or earn. But if you were right now trying to generate one listing a week, how simple could you make it for somebody? Like, what would you do? Maybe 2 or 3 steps or 4 if you need to, just like, this is not, you got to put in the work, but this is a simple process. What would you do, or what are you going to be doing?
I think in today's market, today's environment, watching the numbers like we are, I'm going to do, and I try to do this in most aspects of my business, but if the herd's going one way, I'm going to try to run the other way, right? And so for me right now, to generate a listing a week, I'm simply going to prospect expired listings. And I'm going to do that for 30 minutes a day. I'll probably generate more than one listing a week, but I know that I'm not going to get every one of those appointments, and I may not want every one of those appointments. So I have to generate enough opportunities to be able to pick and choose the ones that I want to take that one. I may need 3 appointments a week to take one listing. I may need 2 appointments a week to take one. But for me, I've done it over and over and over and over again. I'm always going to go back to expireds and withdrawals because they're motivated. They need to sell. They want to sell. There's a reason they're selling. If I can find that reason and find that motivation, I know I can get in front of them, and I know I can get that sign in the yard and get that deal sold.
Okay, so if we're putting together a super simple little step-by-step, then you'd get the expired data. You can get it with a dialer. You can get it with a data provider. There's quite a few ways to get that right now. But you'd get the expired data. You would do that on a dialer. I know you have a kind of a unique voicemail plan that if people don't know.
Yeah, but I would go back to RedX and either Mojo or one of the dialing systems, and I want to have 10 conversations a day about real estate, about selling your house. Out of those 10 conversations a day, I know that I'm going to be able to land 1 to 2 listings a week.
Love it. Okay, so if somebody's only here for that meaty piece, you're going to go get RedX, Real Estate Data Exchange, or some similar data provider.
Vulcan, it doesn't matter where the data comes from.
Right.
I want to talk to people, have conversations. I want my scripting and dialogues to be on point. I want to be able to handle their objections and get in front of them. It's all about the appointment. I want the appointment. So I know if I talk to, for me personally, my number is 22. If I talk to 22 people, I'm going to get a listing appointment. And then whether I want that listing or not, I'll have to decide whether they want me to sell it for them or not. They'll decide. But I know that I've got to talk to 10 people a day, 5 days a week to produce 1 to 1.5 listings a week.
Got it. Okay. So I love those numbers because I think they're realistic. And obviously Mark's really good at what he does. He coaches and trains people to do this stuff, right? And he's great at that. And prospecting is one of the core principles. Like just do the work, right? There's plenty of other things you can train and coach on, right? And different people do different things. But what Mark is saying, just to kind of recap, is get the data. That's not that difficult, and it's not even expensive anymore. Get a dialer. And if you have no idea what that is, easy to figure it out. Just Google, triple line dialer, single line dialer, whatever, automatic dialer. And that will allow you to make those 10 contacts in a very efficient period of time. Mark says 30 minutes, maybe it takes you an hour, maybe it takes you 90 minutes. But the point is,
sure.
Mark is saying 10 contacts. He knows if he does that 5 days a week, he's going to have enough appointments. He's not going to convert every appointment, some because he won't want them, some because they're not ready or they've got a mom in the business or whatever. And he's going to walk away with 1 to 2 listings live, like actual listings signed and ready to rock per week, right? You can see the compounding nature of that over time, right? And we're not even talking about repeat and referral or any other lead source of any kind. Raw expired data, get on the phone, meet with people, convert a reasonable percentage, and then you're going to sell. You're great at what you do. I have very high percentage of that. But again, even if you were on averages and you said this is going to get you 1.5 a week, you should be able to sell 1. That's only 2/3 of what you're listing there. So we are making this sound very easy. What I want to be clear on, I think you would agree, and if you don't, that's even more interesting here, is it's not necessarily easy, but it's simple.
Yep.
You don't need any more. That's what you do. That's what Mark would do in this market right now, and this with the opportunities that abound right now. And if you wanted to do that 6 hours a day, what would be the constraints on that, Mark?
How much rejection you can take in one day. I go through a very simple math equation with every one of my coaching clients when we talk about prospecting. And, I ask them, what is that no worth to you? When they tell you no, when they hang up on you, when they tell you to F off, whatever it is, when they say that, that has a dollar value because it gets you closer to a yes. And when you get the yes, the beautiful thing about this business is we make thousands of dollars for a yes. And so the no's all compound into that. I have a coaching client in California right now, Southern California, that we did the math, and every no to him is worth $291.66.
Yeah, he's
in My no's here in Austin, Texas are worth about $150.
Yeah.
And so every time somebody tells me no, I just made $150. I'm pretty good with that. Keep telling me no, because I'm going to get closer to the yes, and I'm going to list the house and sell it. And by the way, that seller's probably going to have to go buy another house, or I'm going to find the buyer for the listing that I took or whatever. So every one of those listings typically equates to 1.5 to 2 transactions for me. And it just, like you say, it compounds, it snowballs. And all of a sudden you have a great business. And if I take 50 listings and I sell 30 of them, I'm going to spin off another 15 to 20 transactions on top of the 30. 45 deals closed a year. That's a good living.
Yeah. And
that's a good living.
There's so many little spin-off conversations we could have about this, right? The repeat, the referral, the lifetime value, the marketing opportunity of having one listing, much less the compounding marketing opportunity of having 12 at a time and turning those 4 times a year or whatever the math is in your market, right? I love the fact that Mark's talking about the value of a no. We do the exact same thing on our team with our clients. And quick story that I'll abbreviate extremely, but we had a guy, this was years ago, and the numbers will show that $88 is what a no was worth to him. And within a 90-day period of grasping that thought, he almost succeeded himself out of the business. He ramped up so fast. He made like $61,000 in his like 4th month on our team and truly almost had a heart attack. I had to like forbid him from the office for a while and just let him regain consciousness. But you can do that. You can create that problem if you know your numbers, and this requires knowing your numbers, and then you trust the process. and you focus on the process and not so much the results, they will come. So I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but great stuff. And I know that right now in your head, you're probably like, this is not great stuff. This is just normal stuff. But I also know that you've seen this transform individual agents and teams and brokerages, and you've been all of those things. So it's exciting to just have this conversation with you, knowing that you and I have these conversations all the time, but we've recorded it. We'll be able to share it with people, and people can reach out to you if they want to know more about what you do or how you do these things. But now you've got one more perspective on what would you do if you were rebuilding or starting in this business right now? And then specifically, if you wanted to add one listing a week, how would you go about it? And that's how Mark Martin would do it. That's how Mark, who's got trophy cases full of trophies and success stories and testimonials lined up, and he's been on the biggest stages in our industry. And, you know, he's proven each individual model, and he's, like the rest of us, is still navigating every day to build the perfect model for him. And I'm proud to call Mark a friend and a buddy and a guy that we swap ideas with. We drive across the state to have meals together just to hear, what are you up to? What are you changing? We could have told 100 stories just in the last 15 or 20 minutes about the funny voicemails we've tested together and the ways that we've trained team members and borrowed from each other. So I'm thrilled.
Well, and look at the referrals we've done back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, we've probably got several $1 million in production each way, just between the two of us on Dallas, Dallas to Austin, Austin to Dallas. And it's those types of relationships in this industry that are so valuable, because just like the consumer wants to trust you, if I can trust you and you trust me, and you know that your client that you work so hard with is moving to Austin, and we're able to take great care of them and keep that raving fan relationship going, then that's what it's all about. And, there's ways to generate a listing a week from referrals. There's a ton of different ways, and I'm sure your other guests will get into that. But that's the beautiful thing about this business. There are no limits. There is no ceiling. You can make millions. You can net millions. You're going to talk to people today who have built companies from scratch that are now worth tens of millions of dollars, and they started in their garage apartment. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the industry that we work in, and there is no ceiling. So, just keep kicking ass, and it's a privilege to have been asked to pencil in a few words in the comments in the book. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yep. Mark's got a couple comments in the actual book as well. Hopefully this little exchange has been valuable. There's a lot of other places you can catch one or both of us. But thanks for being with us today, buddy.
Yeah, man. We'll see you.
Awesome. Take care.